Hey everybody, this is a quick video reading out your comments about the Glensanda secret submarine base. You guys know a lot. As I say, the truth is out there because you know what you're talking about. There's people who've actually worked there, and there's people who've been inside the secret Coalport nuclear store. Glensanda has all the attributes for a secret submarine base. Let's go through them. Here it is, it's massive, and hang on a minute, you can't go there. There are no roads, it is completely cut off. It's in part of Scotland with no vehicle access. The only way to get to Glensanda, the quarry, is by a daily shuttle service. Here's the log of the wee boat that goes from Oban out to the Glensanda quarry. Obviously it's just full of people doing quarrying. Or is it? Let's start with a really intriguing comment by Thomas Shepherd. Thanks, Thomas. I worked there. That's always a good thing. I got a job as a labourer, and the manager told me there were certain areas not to go near or take any pictures of, as there was a lot of military people there, Army and Navy, who were housed in one area, and none of the quarry workers were allowed to go near, and I have no idea what they were doing. Navy boats did come and go, but I never saw any submarines. I've spoken to guys who worked there for most of their working life, and they said there was a lot of tunnel workers coming and going. And they could have been building something underground, maybe submarine pens. It's a perfect place. I only lasted one winter. It's a terrible place. God forbidding. Oh, I'm sure it's a wild place in the winter, but that's very interesting. Military personnel seen in the area. But Thomas has a second life, working on the railways as a fireman, and he tells this fascinating story. I was a fireman with British Airways, and one night the driver and myself were sent on a job to pick up two 35-ton wagons from the marshalling yards at High Street, Glasgow, long gone. I went out with an old driver who knew all the roads, meaning the routes. It's very important that you go with an experienced person. And we headed out of Glasgow, went down towards Dumbarton, went onto the West Highland line and took a branch off to Glen Douglas. And we arrived at our destination. We were let through a massive barbed wire fence. We travelled about a mile and then we got off. And two men, military guards, took the engines and the two wagons through a massive gate and entered into the side of the hill. That's very interesting. We sat in a wee bothy until they brought back the engine and the wagons. I asked the driver if he had ever done this shift before, and he said, oh, I've done it a few times over the years, and the wagons were always heavily locked with huge padlocks, which was very unusual. I hope this solves the sight of the railway line going into the mountain. Absolutely. I have heard lots of reports that makes sense that big, heavy missiles, Trident missiles, Polaris missiles, were actually transported by train and went into the Coalport, or as he said, the Glen Douglas area, on rails. So, yeah. I'm so happy when Lewis Doherty, who lives in Louisiana, writes, because he is so smart. So thanks, Lewis. Having an underground base in an area where there is active blasting does not seem to be a great location. Yeah, that's a very good point. While granite is hard, it transmits energy and shocks really well. But it does appear to be a good location for nuclear waste storage. Yeah, you see, granite is impermeable and water is the enemy of long-term storage. So, yeah, granite is excellent. I mean, they've already used granite as a nuclear waste storage in, I think, Finland and Sweden. So, yeah, and it's definitely of interest to nuclear waste storage people. Then Lewis says something really intriguing, which I think only kind of touches the subject, but let me just read it to you and then you can draw your own conclusions. Nuclear materials are taken out of the ground. Much of the energy harvested, and then it goes back into the ground. Yeah, okay, I get that. Granite aggregate is used for railway mainland ballast, while cheaper limestone ballast is used for yards and sidings. Yeah, how does that relate to the first point? So, maybe the stuff in the mountain is being spread all over the place. Oh, I get it. Nuclear waste is mixed in with the aggregate particles and then spread on railway lines as a good way of spreading it. I don't know. That seems a bit weird. Nuclear waste is spread on railway lines throughout the world. Okay, but it's a good point. Oh, look at this. It's an email from Gary McKinnon. Hi, Gary. Thanks for writing. Subs have infrared heat signatures, so are probably detectable from the air. And I guess he means to go on to say, so they wouldn't be detectable if they were underground. Yeah, good point. So I got a lot of messages like this one. This one is said home 7945. Hardly a secret now that you've brought it to everybody's attention. Yeah, I get that. But I somehow really doubt that the enemies of the state are watching my YouTube channel and don't have their own information. That's my point. Oh, this is good. Graham Mackay says, the Nuclear Decommissioning Agency definitely has its own ships. There you go. An ideal way of moving the stuff around. And I got a few comments like this. This one is from somebody who wants to be called the Dick Puller. Okay, fair enough. Don't you just love those academic lefties? I guess he's talking about me. The world is now full of those woke veggie sandal wearing weirdos. Yeah. Glensanda provides a lot of jobs for people in the area, an area with damn little employment prospects for many. The tree huggers killed our fishing industry, and now they want to kill our quarrying industry. I certainly don't want to kill the quarrying industry. I think it's a fantastic quarry, and I think the high level and quality of the aggregate coming from Glensanda is absolutely necessary for building the modern world. So no, and it employs a lot of people. I'm just intrigued at what else is going on there and what its future plans are after the quarry finishes. A message from Jay Hancock. Hi Jay, I worked at Glensanda when it was owned by Foster Yeoman. Indeed, the access is by boat from Oban, but it's not a military boat. The boat is owned by the company. Yeah, all right, why did I say it was a military boat? Because when I looked up the log, it came up as registered to the police. So I probably just got it wrong. It makes sense that it's actually owned by the quarry owners, so I apologize if I got that completely wrong. Captain Flint 89. Hi Captain Flint. Yes, there is. There is a tunnel big enough to move weapons and vehicles under the Geological from Faslane to Coulport. There's also a nuclear bunker under the Vale of Leven Hospital with a tunnel linked to the bunker within or near Faslane. These tunnels were completed in the early 90s. I knew the contractors who worked on them, the same people who worked on the Clyde Tunnel. I've heard that a lot. So certainly the west coast of Scotland and the Clyde area, being the British Trident submarine base, you know, they have to have secure places to hide the weapons. This one's from Joe Stefan. A buddy of mine who served at the US Navy in the late 1960s was stationed in Scotland at an underground nuclear submarine base. I wonder where that was. That's really interesting. He said it was the same one as used in the movie Ice Station Zebra. That's slightly worrying because I'm sure the submarine in Ice Station Zebra was just filmed on a set, but maybe your buddy was in an underground submarine pen in the 1960s, I don't know. And here's an interesting comment to close, which I have to read out, which when I read it, you'll get who it's actually from. The writer is called Lee Morrison. And I'll do it in the kind of voice that I expect Lee Morrison wants me to read it in. Glensanda, located in the beautiful Western Highlands, is an impressive operation managed by Aggregate Industries. It proudly boasts the title of being one of the largest hard rock quarries in all of Europe. As a trusted leader in the construction industry, Aggregate Industries provides top quality construction materials for both building and infrastructure projects. They have firmly established themselves as the preferred supplier in their field. Thanks, Professor. Well, yeah, Aggregate Industries. Okay, yeah, I get it. Aggregate industries, the world's leading whatever. It's not the quarry I'm interested in. It's what underneath the quarry and what military might be doing with it. And as my heritage supports the SNP party, I actually think that Scotland should be a nuclear-free zone and not be the dumping ground, possibly in the future, of English nuclear waste. I don't shy away from being controversial. Keep writing the great comments. If you know people who've worked at Glensanda or know the secrets, let us know. Don't, of course, ever share anything which is confidential. But as I always say, because of you, more of the truth is really out there.